To get the paintings that I used today of Monet, go to Art with Allie on Facebook and you can find the document where you can download these and print them for your own use. Hello CC World and welcome to our Claude Monet lesson for the master's level. The materials that you're going to need today are going to be white cardstock, or you could also use watercolor paper. You're going to need some paint brushes, a black oil pastel. You're going to need some paint. You're going to need red, yellow, and black, and then a jar of water to clean our brushes and for mixing. All right, well, let me move these. Let's talk about Claude Monet for a minute, and then we'll jump into our lesson. All right, here we have Mr. Claude Monet. Have a few notes here if you'd like to look at those. He lived from 1840 to 1926 in France. When he was a teenager, he drew caricatures, which are like quick drawings of people, and he kind of got noticed for this. When he was 19 years old, he met a group of experimental painters. So they were kind of doing different things, experimenting with different things. One of those guys was Mr. Degas. Remember, last week was Degas, the dancers. So Monet and Degas knew each other, and they worked together as artists. Mr. Monet loved the outdoors. Things that he loved, and as this group were kind of working on in their experiments, were short brushstrokes. He favored color and light, and we can see that in a lot of his works. And remember Mr. Degas, we saw the light coming in the window. You could see the light bouncing off of the dancers, and then there were some dark areas. So like, it's not just flat, there's a lot of depth to it. And loved like the sensation and the feelings in the paintings instead of it being very orderly in a sense. So they loved and favored all of these things over perspective and classical structure, which we looked at. The classical structure were a lot of the artists from cycle 1, where they may have been very symmetrical on the page or kind of more flat. They're experimenting with these things and really enjoying the color and the light. Now up close, it may be blurry, but it's clear from a distance. They like to look how color doesn't stay the same. If we go outside and we look at a flower in the morning, and then we look at it in the harsh noon sun, and then we look at it when the sun is setting, the actual color of the flower hasn't changed, but the way that our eye sees it and the way that the light is working with it changes the mood and the feeling, and that's what they experimented with a lot. So they did an exhibition in 1874, this group of artists. Rembrandt and Gainsborough were from our first 2 weeks, and then we have Degas and Monet. Degas and Monet knew each other and were in this group. Rembrandt and Gainsborough, different countries, and they were no longer living, but these guys were friends. So along with some other artists, they had an exhibition. That means that they went to a museum, had their paintings hung up, and they invited the public to come in and look at it. Well, an art critic came by and he was like, no way. Y'all are like impressionists, meaning your work is incomplete. Well, what he meant as negative actually ended up being the term that we now call this art movement, and we call them impressionist. Now, one thing to note about Mr. Monet, who was born in France, there's another artist that lived at the same time, 1832 to 1883. He also lived in France. So they were both French artists at the same time, and there's one letter difference in their name. So if you went to go search for Monet, if you typed M-A-N, Manet, then you would get a completely different artist. So I just wanted to point that out. Monet loved the lights, loved like the happy feelings, and loved nature. Manet, his paintings typically tend to be darker. He usually has a lot of black in his, and there's people. So Monet versus Manet. That's just a little extra tidbit there on the end. Okay, so here we have the poppy field, and we see in parentheses, it is a detail, meaning we're not seeing the full image here. So let's see what that full image does look like. So here's the full painting of his. It is in Paris currently, And we can see that it's cut off about right here. But here's the full work, and you can see there's another mother and child walking through this field, and you can see how the light plays off of it. This is a great reproduction. You know, the printer doesn't do as good, but you can see the light on these trees and just the warmth in the field. Now, when we were talking, we talked about how up close it could look blurry, but from a distance, then the picture comes into view and you see what's going on. So here we have a detail. It's called the House of Parliament that he did. You're like, what's that? That is just black and dark. I zoomed in really close, and then if we step back, this is what it is. The House of Parliament at sunset. And this is the section right here that I kind of zoomed in on. Completely different feeling and light when we step back and look at it as a whole. Now, when we've been when I've been teaching my classes, sometimes the students may get frustrated in the process. You're like, this doesn't look good. But we're just practicing and we are just starting to do our artworks. Sometimes our process doesn't look really good, and sometimes we need to go back and repeat it. And I want to show you what Mr. Monet did here. Here's the sunset. All right, there are some like 19 known paintings that he did of this same subject, the House of Parliament, which is, if you think, you know where Big Ben is. Big Ben is part of the House of Parliament in London. But here we have the House of Parliament again, and he's playing with it with all these different times of days, and maybe it was this one's in the fog, and here's the sunlight, the sunset, and then we have even more. So repeating it and doing it in different colors was something that the great artist did. So don't be afraid to do the same painting, but using different colors or looking at it in a different time of day. Here's an actual picture. This is the modern view of the House of Parliament around dusk at about the same angle that he was looking at. And so we can see, actually, here's the Big Ben, the clock, but that's kind of cut off from the picture, and he's just focusing in on this part over here, where this is called the Victoria Tower, that's more of the focal point in his pictures, his paintings, excuse me. This is a picture, that's a painting. All right, so we're going to replicate the House of Parliament. So let's get out our paper, and you're gonna need your black oil pastel. And the first thing we're going to do, let me put this next to it so we can see what we're doing. We're gonna draw the House of Parliament. So we're gonna come to about the middle. We're not coming all the way over. So about here. And we're gonna go a line straight across. And then we're going to be using those oils from our first semester, and we're creating like a square. Then we're gonna have like 2 lines. And then we've got a really tall, skinny rectangle going up. I'm gonna cut it a little bit short because we're gonna come back and put these spires on. Then we've got another rectangle, and then another skinny rectangle over here. Okay, now we're going to color these in. We want to get these somewhat filled in, and then if we look at, you can see that we don't see all the detail. If we were to zoom in, you can't really distinguish that that is a building, like a clear edge, very clean cut of the building. Where's the picture? Like we do in the picture, it's a very sharp edge because we've got the light dancing off of it, and he's doing those short brush strokes. So you can just put some lines like this. It doesn't have to be an exact building. All right, let's make it a little thick across the bottom. They've got to be able to walk from tower to tower. And then this one kind of looks like a triangle, kind of maybe a spire coming up right there. Then we're gonna color this in. And then we see, I can kind of distinguish 3 spires there. So peaks coming up. A little bit thicker at the bottom versus the point there, but remember, this is an impressionist. It's not gonna look exactly like it does in real life. And just like he has at least 19 of these where he practiced and painted these, you can do the same thing. All right, and then another spire over here. All right. So this is sitting right next to the edge of the water, and we're gonna do kind of this reflection down here. And if we notice, we've got a lot of black, darker colors here, darker colors on the left, and then up in the corner. We've got more of red and oranges here. So this was with a heavy hand that we did the actual building. Now we're gonna kind of use a light hand and say, all right, here's the reflection. I'm actually turning this oil pastel on its side, and then we can fall down here in the water to the edge. We're gonna leave the spot for our sunset reflecting. All right, some more right there, kind of goes up to the edge, and then I see that it's darker over here. All right, so now we're ready to begin our paint application. So we're going to get our colors. See if I can keep this all in view here. And let's get our paintbrush. This is one of my new paintbrushes. This is one of my old paintbrushes. It doesn't matter what it looks like, they can still paint and work well. So don't worry about getting the new shiny one. Sometimes the old ones are the best. So we're gonna dip our brush into the water to kind of wake that up. Now we have 3 colors on our palette. We're gonna start with the lighter colors and then go to our darker colors. So first, let's get that sun on there. This has got a little water. We're gonna dip it in, and we're going to put our sun a little bit over here, over this first square that we did. So there's the sun, but we can see that it's not just this yellow ball, right? So now you can use a palette like this. You can also just use a paper plate, so when you're done, you can just throw it away and not have to clean it off. I'm gonna dip into my red over here, just on the edge. When we combine these 2 colors, red and yellow make orange. So we're gonna start mixing these together. Get a little bit more yellow. And we've got these brushstrokes. You can kind of see just back and forth, and we'll just start layering. And we can come back and add more yellow into that center to get it more intense. But we're just doing these short brush strokes. Today would be a good day to probably have a smock on. Now, did you see I did not get much of that red, just a little bit. Now we're repeating some of these same things down here. So we can start with a little yellow. Down in the water, instead of going, this is more diagonal, I see him going more horizontal, left to right, because this is the water ripples. So we're gonna change the direction that we're painting down here. So we're gonna start with a little yellow. I don't see as much yellow down here. I'm gonna dab and get my red. And then just start going on top of it. A little yellow, a little red. So we're just mixing this right on the paper, because we don't want it to be this perfect orange and then put it on there. We want to see these colors, how they're kind of mixing together. So a little yellow, a little red. And we kind of see that it goes over here to the side. It's going over some of my black oil pastel that I did, and that's okay. All right, and then let's get our sky a little bit warmer. Now, if you touch your oil pastel, you'll probably get a little black on there. Okay, so now we've kind of got the base of our sunset set up, and we're going to use our black. But if we look at this, it's not, we've got this variation here between our color and this black. So, excuse me, I'm gonna dip my paint in the water. I'm not like cleaning it off because I need a little bit of this color over here, but I wanna get a little water on it. I'm gonna dip and get some red, and I'm actually gonna put it next to my black over here, and I'm gonna pull some of my black over. Then I'll get a little bit more red. So this is not going to be just stark black. Black is very strong and will take over the paint. So I probably did like 3 scoops of that red. Okay, so now we're gonna start layering these colors on top. I'm gonna get some more water. I want this to really have some good movements, and I want to wake up these oil pastels too that I painted underneath. More water. I didn't get more paint. That way it kind of helps thin this black red out that we have. And I can pick up, go over the black of the Parliaments. I need more water. More water to wake up this oil pastel. If you would like to try another one of his, there's a video on the water lilies, and that's a fun place to start. And I usually say start at the top, and I did not follow my own rules today. Kind of got carried away there. All right, so I picked up some more of that black and red, mixing it in. I'm gonna dip in and get some water. So I'm seeing I'm actually dragging this black through that, so then my color's coming out a little bit into my water. Like so. All right. Now we're going to repeat the same thing up at the top, and we can always come back and put a few little touches. Drag a little bit of this black through. Do you see how we've got this color, but we've got the black or the darker color kind of dancing through there. In the end, we're going to come back and add some of this black highlights to darken it up. All right, so we're gonna start going around here. Now remember, if you look on here, we're losing that horizontal movement, and it's more of like this swirled movements up here. I'm putting more water. I don't really need more paints up here. And go right up to the House of the Parliament, go over it a little bit. Short brush strokes, touching that sunset. More water to drag this out right on top of the House of Parliament. Okay, I'm gonna get some more water. And so we just keep layering and layering. Short brush strokes. Your hand may start cramping. Short, short, short. going over that area that we painted. Okay, I'm gonna get some more of that black red that we mixed. I need more water to see how this kind of got dark over here. So I can take some of that, smooth it over. And if that happens, you can always take a paper towel or a napkin and blot it to get some of that paint off. See, this is a good little accent right here, and I can just take my oil pastel, make those spires again, and go beside it. Because there's a lot of layers to this. Remember, he did this like 19 plus times. That's all they have documented. Who knows how many of these he did and we didn't get to see. He might have thrown them away. He didn't like them. All right, short brush strokes, getting rid of all of my whites. Okay, now we can come down in these corners and add a little bit more black paint in the water. We're going left to right, short brush strokes. You can get some water on there to help the paint move a little bit more and kind of come right up to the House of Parliament there. Make sure you've got your tables protected. Short brush strokes, getting water to kind of thin it out as we're coming over here to the reflection. And then we're going to repeat the same thing down in this corner. I'm going to get some water, dab it in my pure black, start in this corner, short brush strokes. I am going fast. I've done this a few times and trying to get it done for the video. So pause it if you need to. Don't feel like that you need to rush. All right, and then let's do the same thing up here in this corner, a little black, not going left and right, but we're gonna go across like this. Use some of that water to thin it out. So still getting that color, but we're just changing the shade of it a little bit. If you feel like you lost your sun in your reflection, then clean your brush a little bit and go back and you could add in some more. See, my brush still has some of the brown on it, that black brown, which is okay because I really like that. So layer, layer, layer with these tiny brush strokes. Okay, and there we have the House of Parliament. Now for this one, I would say you should try to cover up all of the areas. So there should be no white showing. Sometimes they can peek through. Because at sunset, everything's getting darker. So make sure you've got everything covered up. You need to go over that to fill the black in. And remember, he practiced this numerous times with different colors. So you could go back and do this on a stormy day in the effect of a fog right here. A stormy sky. The sun breaking through the fog. So those same black lines, and then you can add in all these different colors with things that are going on in the sky. Because we know the sky, God puts on a show for the sunset, sunrises, and they're never the same. And that's what Mr. Monet was seeing, that the colors are not staying the same, they're changing. So here we have Claude Monet, the House of Parliament. Thank you for joining for today's lesson.